We're at the Stapleton place, and we just had Jazzy really fast behind me.
You start over this.
Damn midget.
We need to start over.
Welcome to Unfiltered with Jax and Stapleton. This week's episode is the first of a two-part series that features a very special guest. Lil Stapleton, or Papa Stapleton as we refer to him on Unfiltered, is in town to celebrate Lil Stapleton's birthday, along with Mama Stapleton. On Saturday, June 7th, Stapleton, her parents, family, and friends gathered to celebrate her birthday. At the end of the festivities, Jax and Stapleton decided to interview Mr. Stapleton. Mr. Stapleton was a career Navy photographer, stationed in multiple places throughout his years of service, including Korea and Vietnam during war times. After retiring from the Navy, Mr. Stapleton had a variety of professions, from photographer to mailman and more. But one of his very favorite times professionally was when he worked alongside Ansel Adams. This filming was the first time our podcasters filmed away from the Jax studio and in front of a live audience of friends and family. And while Mr. Stapleton and his life stories brought laughter, smiles, and tears to everybody present, it just wouldn't be Unfiltered without some technical difficulties, including the primary camera focused on Mr. Stapleton that didn't start working until almost 20 minutes into the interview. So, without further ado, we bring you Unfiltered with Papa Stapleton, glitches, technical difficulties, and all. And thank you, Mr. Stapleton, for sharing so much of your stories with us and so much of your heart with your family, friends, and community.
Guess who we have? We have a special guest today.
Our first guest.
It's our first guest ever.
This is so awesome.
It's amazing. And totally fell in love with your dad.
No, he's
It's
amazing.
your dad.
My dad. My 91-year-old dad.
Yeah, the dad is
That
here.
we've been talking about for the last 16, bringing up the
Right.
past episodes, and here he is. All the way from Flowtown, Oregon.
Man, we had to have him on. And because he was telling all of these amazing stories about his life and experiences. And yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was
just going to say they used an atlas to get to Kansas.
an atlas.
They
They
don't even-
used an atlas?
They don't even make those anymore. I'm surprised
yes, they
Rose
did.
Hill was even on the atlas.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'll have to.
Did you just kind of have to go close your eyes and
Yeah.
point? Did you?
I was like, I can't see.
I can't tell you the last time I used an atlas, but
I don't even know how to spell
but you
it.
know what? It's actually going to get you there, probably to where you're not sometimes Google's on alcohol and you end up at a bridge that is out or something like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The atlas is something that you can truly rely on. But I probably couldn't read it.
I couldn't read it. It would be too small. I'd have to get one of those magnifying glasses. Okay, got it.
Who was
I
the
know.
navigator?
Mom? Was mom the navigator?
Mom was the navigator. Wow, that's amazing. And what if she told you to go somewhere that was like a wrong turn?
That's happened.
Oh, it has happened. And how did we get out of that, Leo?
Just keep going around in circles until I find out the road I'm on.
You went on a roundabout the wrong way. In Utah, I think.
Oh, well, we have roundabouts coming in here to see her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, drives me crazy.
He
But
loves
it was dark and it didn't have nothing, so I just turned left and went right through everything.
That's why I drive.
I love
over
it.
Here.
Yeah. Well, you should be driving them back. Crickets.
I've been nervous wreck.
Crickets. Well, we're going to try to get them back.
Sooner rather than
I think,
later.
I made a suggestion. I would like for them to maybe take a train here and or we would fly you there and you would drive them back.
I could do that.
Yep.
Yep.
So this can't be the only time. We got to have like regular visits.
In fact, it's been 16 years, I believe, because Riley was just born.
Wow.
I babysat Riley while they went shopping.
Oh.
He changed her diaper.
He changed her diaper and everything.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I think he threw because we had cloth diapers, like me, just threw it in the trash. He
Yeah, I
didn't tell
probably would have
anybody.
too. I just go buy me new cloth diapers.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Like, how did you rinse that out?
It was disgusting, and
Like, where would you rinse it? Because
in the
then
toilet.
if
Like, in the toilet.
oh,
Like,
seriously?
I didn't
Yeah.
do it.
In the toilet? Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially-
No wonder I didn't never use your restroom when I visited.
I didn't do it.
I mean, oy, oy,
I was the
oy.
one that threw them in the trash.
You,
We
yeah.
used to have 20 of these. Why do we have 12? Don't know.
The dog ate him.
Ew.
They would make a mess with them.
I think one of my most things that was very intriguing to me today with you, Leo, was your experience with Ansel Adams. I mean, honestly, I would really love to hear more about your,
How did you meet him?
yeah, like your photography experience and the whole Ansel Adams and everything. Because honestly, as I was growing up, he was my most favorite. Like, I had a lot of his stuff.
I'm on that same path.
Yeah.
You know,
I'd be amazed to see what you actually have too. But how did you get started?
actually, when I got stationed in Monterey, I went to work for, well, we needed money, and so I got a part-time job working for Al Weber, who was an illustrated photographer. And he also was the instructor of the college then. And so he hired me, and he'd give me enough negatives. He said, this will take you 8 hours, and I'd be done in 2. And this kept going, but he would pay me for the 8. And then one day he introduced me to Ansel, who was his really good friend. And
Did you know he was like going to be as big as he was?
I knew long before. He was teaching, Ansel Adams was teaching in Yosemite long before that.
Gotcha.
Oh, wow.
You know. And anyway, the first group of pictures he gave me were negatives to print. I cropped them. And so he come in, he said, oh, I want everything I put in the negative in the print. You know?
Wow.
No burning, no dodging. And so I did everything he said. And one good thing that he taught me was when you do a wedding, black and white, with the white dress, it's hard to get the detail in the white dress. So you process that picture till it's almost perfect, throw it in a pan of water face down, and leave it there for half an hour or so, and all the detail will come back in that dress.
Oh my God.
And I did learn the zonal system. You know, you take a light meter and everything you're taking a picture of, and then you add it all up. And that's what the f-stops uses, shutter speed. And his place was immaculate, all stainless steel. You know, and he was an immaculate man too. But Ansel Adams hardly shot anything that wasn't done in Yosemite National Park.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and that's where he had a studio. Also,
And that's where he taught, you said?
pardon?
You said he taught there?
Yeah, he taught there. Every year he'd have 2 classes, and just to teach you the zonal system. And it's pure educational, but he's the one that also taught to the Al Weber, and I did sign my name at the junior college, and I got my degree in Monterey, California, in photography. And I never went to any classes.
Wow.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, I never did either.
Classes, what?
I think when you have the desire for it,
Oh.
you learn it.
Well, nobody could ever have more love for photography than I did. And when I went to school down in Pensacola, Florida, I knew that was my thing. You know, and when I got to Point Magoo, I worked on the shooting crew for maybe a week. They moved me into the color lab, and that became my specialty.
Ah.
I set up more color labs in the Navy than you can believe. Taught people how to use them. You know, it was education all of its own. In color photography, it's totally different than black and white. In order to cheat, you just about got to use a cigarette wrapper. You know, to take blemishes off somebody's face or something. The foil wrapper they put on cigarette packages, put it in there and just move it around, and you can eliminate 90% of it.
Yeah.
I cheated and did that thing.
Okay.
This gentleman was brought to me in the Air Force, and he had been beat up pretty good. And so I shot some pictures of it, and then I went home, and he was on TV, and he was living with this woman that had kids, and they go to the bathroom, and he'd make them eat the toilet paper. So I cheated it, and one thing I couldn't get rid of was the swelling on the face, but there was no bruises on the man or nothing.
Well.
And when they picked up the negatives, they said, "Oh, he wasn't hurt that bad, was he?" No.
Wow.
But
That is crazy.
you learn to do things that you have to do.
Yeah.
You know? And color is a challenge, and you can do now in seconds what it used to take me an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I got a letter from Atomic Energy Commission that I did in 24 hours, what it took the Air Force 2 weeks. You know,
Wow.
they'd have the explosion, and then I was dump them on San Diego at that time, and then I'd go unload the plane when it landed and process it and print it and give it back to them the next morning.
Dang, that was fast, especially back then.
You know,
That
if
was
you've got
really
your
fast.
equipment set out,
Yeah.
in color you have an analyzer that you set it underneath your lens, and it projects down there, and you line up, you have that calibrated already, and just line it up and print it. You know, it got really simple after a while,
Mm-hmm.
but it was something I always loved, and I always wanted to be good at it. And I have a nice reputation. So.
I bet you do. I mean, yeah, I think when you have a passion, though, which you had, you loved it through and through, that it is just something that I love it because I don't like to look, I told you earlier, I don't like to look at it as just a job, because it's not a job when you find that uniqueness of people and things. That's what I love about doing photography, is I try to learn the authentic person, right? Who they really are, and not do those, like you said, about the smile and the eyes and that.
Yeah, and well, some people smile with their eyes and some people smile with their mouth.
Yes.
And Peter Gowan, I gotta name all these guys because I went
You
to
just
school.
go right
Go
ahead.
ahead, yeah.
And he taught me glamour photography, you know.
That's when you took pictures of me.
And then, no.
Yeah,
And
he's
then-
right. Nah.
Anyway, he didn't take pictures of the movie stars until he'd spent 2 weeks with them. He wouldn't shoot a portrait of them. So that's when I learned about the eyes and the different ways of people smiling.
Yeah.
And every time I turned around, the Navy was sending me to school. And I'm having trouble right now in the Elks Club. They want me to be the photographer, but the people that shoot for National Geographic says people standing up looking at the camera, that's a dead body standing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to turn them sideways and everything, and getting this shot in the mouth. And I even had a piece of tooth flying out of the mouth. And Walter says, it's no good. You know, that's the instructor. And that time, I said, well, you can take your schooling and shove it.
That's a good catch. Your teeth flying everywhere and you catch that?
Yeah.
Money shot.
But anyway, that weekend, I took a Leica and a 400 millimeter lens and went to the San Diego Zoo. And I heard this noise go, "Rrrr," and so I had to find out what it was. And I went across the place and I found it. It was the 500-pound turtles mating.
What?
It was. And anyway, I shot a couple pictures, and then I got the idea of this 400 millimeter lens. I'll go up on the hill here and shoot pictures of people.
Taking pictures of the turtles.
Yeah. And I seen cameras behind the back, an armpit, you name it. But nobody stood up face on and shot a picture of it. And Walter liked it so well that they took all my negatives back to Germany with them.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
I did pass the school after that.
Wow.
I mean, photography's always been, since I got into it, it's been a real dream, and I've had really the best instructors you could ever ask for. And I set up color labs throughout the Navy, you know, and you got to have the love for it because it's tedious.
I think that's another thing. It's like I was telling you earlier that when people ask me to do specific things for them, there's just something about it that I kind of cringe sometimes because I do want to get the reality of the person. I want to get their authentic self, and sometimes these senior pictures can be a little bit challenging because you have the parent there that's saying to do all the things that they really don't need to do. They just need to let their child be who they are. And there's a lot of times that I take the parent and say, okay, you know, you probably need to go back there and let me get to know, you know, your daughter. And I actually have shot this girl. She was 5 when I very first started doing her photography, and she just graduated this year. So she always wanted me to do her pictures because we have that relationship now, and she knows that she can be herself, you know, with me.
That means she's relaxed.
Yes. Yes.
If you got them relaxed, you got the world by the tail.
Yeah.
You know, I do not like somebody trying to tell me how to take a picture.
No.
I do.
No.
My very first one was Queen Frederica from Greece came over and was visiting our commanding officer. So I took a camera up there, and I stood at parade rest, scared to death. And pretty soon the admiral says, "Are you going to take pictures, son?" And I said, "As soon as you tell me what you're ready for, you know." And he says, "That's what we trained you for." And from that day on, I'd go in the admiral's office, shut the blinds down, do everything. I wasn't scared no more.
Yeah.
You know, but you got to do it. You know, what it takes to get a good picture.
Yeah.
You know,
I had the privilege to do still photography for a movie, which was it was the first time I was able to get behind, and that's what they would use all my shots for the next day to make sure everything was still in the same place so they could shoot the same thing. But
What movie was that?
Bender.
Which is based out of Kansas,
It's
right?
based out of Kansas. It was made here by Emporia. It was about a family that I can't remember what year it was, but they would have people pass through their property, and they would help feed them, but the people would never leave because they would kill them.
They had the curtain behind them.
Yeah, they'd have the curtain.
Oh, yeah.
And they would sit them at the table where the curtain was and feed them, and then they would just...
yeah.
And then they buried them out in the garden or
They
something.
buried them in the garden.
Oh, I gotta love Kansas.
But it was very, very exciting to do that and have that opportunity. But you learn more about everybody's expressions and things, of them acting and, you know, all the things. But thankfully, I mean, I got really lucky. They used one of my pictures as their poster. So that was pretty cool.
You made the credits.
I made the credits, yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well,
Still photography.
they filmed the movie North Alaska, Point Review, right there on the base. And it was really something. And I was in the security office one day and putting these badges on the mules. Everything that went through this certain area had to have a badge. And they put on, John Wayne comes in and he says, "You mean I gotta have a badge like a goddamn mule?" And there's a little airman that was taking care of everything. He's scared to death. He's scared to death.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That's super cool.
I know. That is.
But John Wayne has always been my idol anyway. But
Yeah.
anyway, I don't think he drew a sober breath.
Yeah.
And what was his name? The guy with him anyway. He is so scared of John Wayne that when at lunchtime come, he'd eat at least 100 yards away. John Wayne was picking on him.
He was a big guy, wasn't he?
Yeah,
John
he was.
Wayne was very big, very tall.
He had a big heart because if any of us wanted to take a picture, and we had, at one point we go, there's about 80 photographers there. And he was there to let it. And another thing at Point Magoo, the guys come in with a baby seal, so called the deal down to Los Angeles, and they said, "We don't take him." And I said, "Well, what I feed him?" They said, "Ground clams." And so I kept him and put him in the tank at night and let him play, but he laid on my desk all day long. Somebody'd come in, he'd raise up and go, "Arr, arr, arr, arr,"
Oh.
and then he'd lay back down. And then the Oshers Club came up and they said, "You can put him in our pool down at the Oshers Club." And they had like a little creek thing. And he killed him. They fed all their drinks to him. Not a happy camper. I got pictures of it too.
Oh, I bet.
It's a cute picture of him giving you a kiss, I remember.
That's so cool, yeah.
So, y'all always hear about the conspiracy of the man on the moon.
Oh,
Let's put that to an end, because you are first one to print that
yes, I was.
from NASA.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Well, I was stationed at Moffett Field when that happened. And being a color printer like I was, when you walked on the moon, they brought the negative back to me and I made 800 copies.
800 copies.
Yeah, and I have one.
They got 799.
I think you have. Don't you have it signed by Neil Armstrong? Don't you? I thought you
I'm
had.
not sure. The ones I know for sure I got the autographs is John Young and Pete Conrad moved the astronauts. I was their personal photographer for a month.
Whoa.
Went everywhere with them.
Yeah.
Did they live a wild life?
Well, Pete Conrad was ornery.
Yeah.
We
His
know
wife
what that
was
means.
a character too. Because see, I followed him around. I took pictures of everything they did. And we were sitting there, and his wife says, "I gotta go to the bathroom. I suppose you want a picture of that too." And I said, "I'll pass." And Pete says, "Go get it. I want it."
Let me go get my telephoto lens.
I was super embarrassed. But they're human beings.
Mm-hmm.
They're all human beings, and so and I love it. Sherry bought me a book here a couple years ago. 3 of my pictures are in the National Aviation book.
What?
He's like, it was going through it, and he's like, I took that one. I took that one. Yeah, super cool.
You think that don't make you proud, but you're crazy, because it does.
Wow.
Especially after, all the years.
And I knew
so cool.
for sure that one of them, because I was stationed at Moffett Field, they decided to fly the missing man formation with the P-3s. And they did it only one time. FAA said, no more. The plane don't maneuver that fast. And I got a picture of one of the P-3s right over the hangar, big old blimp hangar. You know, and I have the negatives at home.
No, dude, you can never lose that stuff.
No.
Like, that is so cool.
You know.
Well, I didn't even know Dad did half this stuff, and I was home for Christmas one day, and I was going through his albums and stuff, and then he finally was telling me his past, and I was like, "Why didn't you say that?" And he's like, "It was just a job. I loved it, and it's just what I did. It was not a big deal." And I'm like, "It is a big deal. Oh my God."
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you about the funniest thing that ever happened.
Okay. What nudie did you take?
Well,
Mom, you might want to leave the room.
we were taking pictures of the commissary.
Oh, gee.
Oh no. Oh no.
And anyway, the film back then was still pretty slow. And so when they get ready to take the picture, I'd yell, "Hold it!" And then people was thinking I was saying, "Hold up." You know?
Oh.
But her, she had her hair in them big rollers, and the kids in a basket, they were right in front of the dairy display when I yelled at her. It made the National Commissary magazine.
And Mom could have killed you for that.
The rollers. The rollers.
She never went out of the house again with rollers.
That's why she's always made up.
You know,
You destroyed her.
but
You just never know, right?
Right.
You just
I don't like height. You know, and when they flew the moon landing module in the hangar there, flew it up and down, they asked me to go up on the catwalk, and I ain't going up there. You know, because that's too far down. But they flew that module up and down inside there. You know, the
Wow.
old blimp hangar. And I actually got to retire in that blimp hangar.
Oh, wow.
You know.
Okay.
And it was awesome.
I bet it was.
And we went down there about
Go
a
ahead.
year or two ago, and it was skinned. They took the skin off of it, you know. And I thought they was tearing it down. They just refurbished it, and now it's going to be a museum, and I'm going to have 30 some odd pictures in there.
Oh, we got to see it.
You know.
Where are we
We need to
going?
work on communication in this family.
Yeah, we've had that conversation. She's terrible at communication.
Dang. Did they ask you, or, I mean,
My ones in that missing man's formation, they're going to be in there.
mm-hmm.
And I do believe that the moon landing module is probably going to be in there.
That was,
You know, I don't really have an idea what's going to be in there, but they already told me I'll have 36
30.
pictures.
That's amazing.
You know.
When is that taking place? Are
Yeah.
there-
We don't know yet because it's taking long. It's huge. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's huge. You know.
Which, it's the big blimp hangar.
Yeah.
Right?
And the door on the end opens out like this, comes around, but I'd say it's probably inside. There's probably close to 200 feet high, and then wide it's about 70 feet or so high. It's a huge building.
Yeah.
But it does a lot of work for NASA, and I did a lot of work for NASA. I got to see what do they call that thing, that the engines turn like this and they take off like a helicopter. And, you know, got to see that being made.
Wow.
Got to ride in a C5 just before I got out, and I never did want to ride another one.
A lot of history,
Yeah.
right?
The C5 is a huge for carrying. You can carry a battalion and the tanks and everything that goes with it in that plane, but it flies so slow. I never wanted to get it in again. You know,
Yeah.
I think you can watch a guy play 2 rounds of golf, every 2 holes of golf while that plane coming in for a landing.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how it stands up. When they took off, we're going down the runway, and they call it rotate when the front end comes up. And we were going down there, and jackrabbits were outrunning us. And I'm going, we're not going to make it, we're not going to make it. And pretty soon it rotated, and then it just kind of stalled, and then climbed up, and we went around, and come back. It flies slower than that damn Beechcraft, you know.
Wow.
But when it gets up there, it moves.
Yeah.
I've had a good life and a good career in the service, and I love it.
Yes, you have. Yes.
Let's take a break and then we'll talk about the service.
Thank you for watching this episode of Jax and Stapleton Unfiltered. Today's show featured founding podcasters Jax and Stapleton. Executive produced by both Jax and Stapleton. Sound editing and the theme song by Jamie Hudson. Video editing by Jamie Hudson.
Cut!